Hello, Cookie Killer here, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Rwandan Genocide. The Rwandan Genocide lasted from the 7th of April to the 15th of July in 1994. An estimated 500,000 to 1 million people were killed. They were mainly Tutsi and moderate Hutus. This consists of approximately 20% of the population of Rwanda at the time and 70% of the Tutsi minority in Rwanda. The attacks were carried out by Hutu militia, Interahamwe and members of the armed forces. The Rwandan Patriotic Front, a Tutsi force made up of exiled Tutsis who lived in Uganda, who'd been kicked out in the 1960s. They'd created a force and had tried to invade and to move back into Rwanda. The reasons behind the conflict and the genocide were during Belgian colonial times, the Tutsis were chosen as leaders and given important positions in Rwanda during colonial times to run the country. Now, naturally, this put quite a lot of resentment amongst the Hutu majority, and when the Belgian colonial forces left in the 1960s, they left the Hutus in charge. This created quite a lot of resentment, but the country was going, it was working. There had been fighting between the RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, and the Hutu army. In Rwanda at this time, there was an ideology going around of Hutu power. This was an idea that the Hutus were superior and that the Tutsis were invaders or an infestation, which is why the Tutsis were often called cockroaches, often seen as subhuman by the Hutus. The genocide was sparked when the President of Rwanda's plane was shot down, President Habyarimana, and the President of Burundi was also on the plane. They'd had peace talks with the RPF and tried to solve the situation. There was quite a large UN contingent in the country, but as soon as the plane was shot down, that's what caused the spark. 10 Belgian peacekeepers were killed trying to protect the female president of the acting president of Rwanda. Her children were managed to survive due to the help of the UN commander, one of the UN officers, Mabaya of Senegal, who was very instrumental in saving many lives in the conflict and is given huge credit for it. He helped out at checkpoints and helped save between hundreds, maybe even thousands of people from the militia. He was unfortunately killed in the conflict when a mortar landed behind his jeep as he stopped at a checkpoint. Due to the loss of 10 Belgian peacekeepers by the Belgians, the UN force, the Belgians decided to leave Rwanda as they'd lost 10 people there. And they left. The Belgians were the largest contingent of the UN force, and gradually, and quite speedily, all the other members of the UN force gradually left. This left a small token force of about 450 people in control of the whole country. It's quite a big country at the time, quite a lot of people, and it was an insufficient force to help. Romeo Dallaire, a Canadian officer, or the Canadian commander of the UN mission, he'd requested more troops, but his calls fell on deaf ears. He didn't receive any help. He did his best with his UN forces to try and stop the genocide. His men, often unarmed, defending churches and that. And the mere presence of UN troops outside a building was enough to hold the militias at bay and give refuge to the Tutsis and moderate Hutus who were being hunted. One of the main things about this conflict, which is a dark stain on human history, is the complete lack of help and the failure to act by the world community, or the international community. The US in particular had suffered a military setback and been beaten in Somalia. They had something there which was quite bad and very bad for their public opinion, and Bill Clinton, the president, was very against getting involved in Africa and had something called the Mogadishu line, which is how far they were willing to go to protect, and they said that Rwanda they had no interests in, so that they wouldn't get involved. It took a long time for people to get involved. The French did eventually get involved and help out, and a bigger UN force was sent, but mainly the international community is seen as turning their back on the conflict and failure to act speedy enough. I mean, organisations like the Red Cross and groups of UN troops in Rwanda did huge amounts, including Mabaya. They helped huge amounts to stop the conflict. The Rwandan army was majority Hutu, and Augustin Bizimungu, the commander, is believed to have been helping out in the genocide and committed acts of genocide and helping out in mass killings and stuff like that. The RPF, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, did get involved.
Got it, sir.
They got involved and invaded. Paul Kagame, the leader, who is now the current president of Rwanda, he got involved and attempted to... He moved his forces into the country. It was the capture of Kigali by these forces which stopped the genocide. One of the common features about the genocide was the way the killings happened. They were carried out by the Interahamwe militia, who were groups of people who worked together, went to the same church, and they're people who lived in the same area. A common weapon of the genocide was the machete. This made the whole conflict personal in nature and shown the real hatred between the ethnic groups. Due to the RPF capturing Kigali, the capital, there was a huge exodus, possibly the largest exodus in modern history. Approximately 2 million Hutus who feared reprisals from the Tutsi retreated and crossed the borders into Tanzania, Uganda, and the Congo. there's been a lot of problems in the Congo to date, which have origins back to this conflict, as the large number of the 2 million Hutus who escaped. A number of them, or part of that big exodus, were into army militia, government people who'd been involved in the genocide and who'd escaped. Rwandan forces tried to pursue and help and try and capture the members, the perpetrators of the genocide. The international community has, and the UN in particular, have arrested key members of the genocide and sentenced them for trial at The Hague. There is one important thing we need to remember. We need to not sit back and watch another Rwanda happen again. The lessons that we learned in the First World War, in the collapse of Yugoslavia, and in Rwanda, they need to be remembered and they need to be put into action. We need to prevent atrocities like this from happening again, and on the same scale. Right, this has been Cookie Killer, and this has been my video about the Rwandan genocide. Thanks for watching.